Chris Norwood, legislative update.
All right, while we're getting the PowerPoint set up there, all right, great. Why don't you just jump to the next slide? I want to keep this thing rolling. I'm sure I'm here to talk about everyone's favorite topic, which is politics. Don't worry, I'm not going to get too divisive. I'm going to stay specifically with New Hampshire. So this is my bio, just really briefly. I've been in commercial real estate since 2003. My passion has always been commercial real estate, but my hobby has always been getting into politics. We're first in the nation. I've always enjoyed that. So I've kind of always enjoyed how the sausage is made, so to speak. And I've been doing volunteer work for the realtors for a number of years. Spent a number of years going down to Washington, D.C. to lobby down there. Been spending the last 6 or 7 years focused on lobbying up in Concord in bills that affect private property rights. So why don't you jump to the next slide. Okay, so New Hampshire has the second largest legislative body between in our general court, House and Senate. Does anyone have any idea of how many members are in our House and Senate?
500.
Slightly less. 500, do I hear less? 467? Lower. 425 to something? It is 424, so pretty close. We'll get you a beer afterwards. The largest body is in DC, which is I think 535. Does that sound right?
Yes.
100 in the Senate. Yeah. So, but just think about it. We have 424 legislators for 1,000,003 people. We have a lot. It's a citizen legislature. They get paid $100 plus tolls, so it's not a whole lot. But the reason I bring all that up is this. Where is it? This line right here. Every single bill gets a hearing. So I know this text is a little small for people in the back. Every year there's about 1,100 bills that get introduced somewhere around December and January, and every single one of those bills, no matter how strong or sound or how batshit crazy that bill is, it will get a hearing. And so that's kind of one of the things that's unique. I mean, down in DC, the Speaker of the House or the President of the Senate can squash a bill and it could never see the light of day. That's just not the same that can happen in New Hampshire. So in any case, we as the realtors review about 1,100 bills. About 100 of them we feel have some sort of impact on private property rights, and then we review them throughout the legislative session. I'm not going to talk about 100 bills today, don't worry. Next slide. Okay, so really quick, 2024, just a couple quick notes. Most of the people in the back won't be able to see this, but for anybody who has seen the standard, quote unquote, the standard residential purchase and sales agreement, you're probably familiar with RSA 477, even if you don't know the number, but that is the notification section of the purchase and sales agreement. So last year, 2 bills came up. One is PFAS. Now that has to be notified, just like radon, arsenic, lead paint. PFAS is a required notification, along with flood insurance. Not saying that this property needs flood insurance, but rather this is where you can go and find out that information. So just again, quick review of some bills of interest to this organization for 2024. Next slide. Also of interest in 2024, there was a bill that came out that said you do not need sprinklers for 4 units and under. So some municipalities were saying you did need sprinklers. Actually, the New Hampshire Fire Marshal came out and said, no, in these smaller projects where there are means of egress to get out of a window or what have you, that sprinklers actually cause more property damage than it does help save lives. So that was passed in 2024. In 2018, there was actually another bill that was passed, but a portion of it didn't come into effect until 2024. So that's why I put it up here. But if you renovated a project that was a different use and you brought it in to be an apartment or some residential use, you had to bring it up to a certification of lead safety prior to it being used as a residential unit. So that was new. It was passed in 2018 and then everyone forgot about it. because there was a 6-year window before it took effect. So again, if you're think about an office building that you're converting into a residential apartment, that will now have to be lead safe. So again, those are the bills that happened they're already passed, they're already law. Next slide. 2025. So again, this goes back to those 1,100 bills. Here's a sliver of the bills that we monitored that we thought were impactful for private property rights. These ones all are dead. So for those of you who are not familiar with the way that the New Hampshire General Court works, you got the House side and the Senate side. They both have their bills, they both get introduced, they all have their hearings, and then each body votes on those. If they're voted down, they're dead, and they don't come back that legislative session. If they pass, then it has to go over to the other chamber for it to pass the bill. It takes a lot to pass a bill. It's pretty easy to let one die. But I bring these up because I want this group to see some of the bills that are kind of perennial. They come back year after year. I won't go through them all, but just to kind of go through some of them. All right, so here's one, House Bill 444. This one came up last year, and it came up again this year. ITL, that's Concord speak for inexpedient to legislate. It's not nice to say, you want to be polite. You say this bill is inexpedient to legislate, to say you don't like it. You don't say that this bill is bad, right? That's just how they do it. So ITL, this bill would say anytime you get an offer, if you're a landlord and you own a 4-unit, if you get an offer on that 4-unit, you have to provide the tenants a 60-day right of first. It was a little unclear whether it was a right of first refusal or a right of first offer, but you have to essentially notify them so that they have a chance to match that offer. Again, this is the same bill that came up last year, slightly different text. So just letting you guys know that this is something out there. Again, it did not move forward, but it's something that is perennial. Let me just see one of these ones.
351.
Oh, let there be light.
Oh no, it happened again.
We'll wing it. What was 351?
Yeah, the TAW or something like that.
Oh, okay, so that was one that was for tenant at will status. They were going to change tenant at will status, which is always 30 days. They were going to change tenant at will status to a rolling 60 days. Again, I can't remember if it was ITL'd or retained, different ways of saying the same thing. It didn't make it out of the House chamber. So those are just some issues that are coming impacting tenant-landlord relations. So while we're working to get connectivity, I'll just jump to the next slide and see how much I can do off of memory. So there's one bill that I think is more impactful to tenants than landlords, but that's Senate Bill 162. This bill has come up in a lot of other states, and essentially they call it the Foreign Operatives Bill. So what it's trying to prevent the Iranian government, the Chinese government, the North Korean government from buying property immediately adjacent to, say, the Guard Air Base in Concord, or the Guard in Manchester, or Pease in Portsmouth. So what they're doing in order to protect this is they're saying every buyer of any buyer of any property or any tenant of any property, the day after closing, they have to fill out an affidavit that says that they're not a foreign operative. Now, I don't know about you guys, but Spy School 101 says that if I'm a spy, I'm probably not going to say that I'm a spy. But more so than that we really find this problematic. From a landlord's perspective, it's not really clear the responsibility of a landlord to inform their tenant of this notification. And if you're a tenant, if you fail to do it, by the way, it has to be a notarized document, and that I think is problematic. But for tenants, you have to go, and if you fail to do it, it's a $500 fine. So that's one that it did pass the Senate, and it's on to the House, so that's one that's concerning. Another bill that I'm actually going to be testifying on tomorrow is a question for the audience. Does anyone know how many days you can appeal the decision of a building permit?
60.
60 days. Do I hear more, do I hear less? 45? Anybody? 90? So the answer is actually a lot less satisfying. The answer is reasonable. Right? Which,
Who defines that?
thank you. So the definition is left up to the governing body. So in most towns in the state of New Hampshire, that governing body of appeals is the ZBA. And so I was shocked as hell. I've been in the industry for 20 years, and last summer I found out that some towns have reasonable as a definition. Other towns actually put in a definition that's like 30 days, which, by the way, I think 30 days is reasonable. So there's a bill, I think it was introduced in the House, and it's now gone out to the Senate. I'm going to be testifying tomorrow in favor of it. But it defines it. And quite frankly, again, personal opinion, whatever you think, 30, 60, just have a number, because you never want to be arguing what the word reasonable is. I think that's the point. So I think that's an interesting one. And let me just see if I can cherry pick any other ones that may be interesting. Those are probably, there's about a half dozen or so that have passed the House or the Senate that are now in front of the other body. Oh, all right, real quick. Let's go about 4 more slides.
She's got it over there.
Nope.
I got it.
Oh, yeah. Keep going. And one more. All right. Oh, back. Okay, so, end of a residential lease. This group might find this interesting. What are how many is it hardships or cause? There's like 6 or 7 for causes to terminate a tenancy when you go to get an eviction. How many are there? I can't remember. Is it 6, 7? Does anyone know? It's like, they're not paying their rent, or they're breaking the lease terms. 6. Thank you. So again, news to me. I didn't realize that the end of the lease contract is not actually grounds for an eviction. So Representative Lynn, he was on the state Supreme Court. This is the 5th year he's introduced this bill that essentially says if you have a landlord-tenant relationship at the end of the 5th year, at the end of the lease, that constitutes the end of the lease. And so he has now that in for a 60-day. It used to be a 30-day lease, tried for the last 4 years, and this time it's a 60-day. Let me just see if there's any other ones in here. No, I think the only other one is there's another ADU bill. So I don't know any of you in the audience that are renovating projects that have an ADU attached to it or detached. This bill is going to go in and kind of define that an ADU is by right both attached and detached. I'm sure there's going to be an amendment or 2 on that. So those are the bills that I think are of interest, and happy to answer any other questions. And if not, that is fine. I know you guys got a great speaker, and I'll be sticking around and grabbing a beer, and so please bend my ear. Yes?
It said Senate Bill 162 that it prevents people from buying property in certain areas due to their national origin, because of military installations and stuff like that. Wouldn't that fall under discrimination under the Fair Housing Act?
I think you're helping me write some testimony. So I agree. I mean, I think it's, I'm trying to think of how the fair housing is worded. Is it national origin?
I believe it's national origin.
So I think the way that they're wording it is not necessarily national origin, but it is the state government that is buying it. I think that's therein lies the rub. But I certainly don't want to be the realtor asking, what nation are you from?
Well, right.
Right, that I think sounds a little problematic.
The way you explained it, they have to sign us a piece of paper the day after they've done it. So they're really not actually being discriminated against buying or renting. They just have to disclose that the day after.
Yep, so you say, hey, I'm a
According to
spy.
what you said.
Yep, no, and that is how the bill is worded.
You can still sign the paper and buy it. You just
Yep.
don't.
No, and it goes so far to say that you can sign the lease and you can take possession.
Right.
But then you say that you're the spy the next day.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
What happens if you don't fill out the form?
$500.
So no, if you don't fill out the form, that's the $500, and then if you fill it out and you lie, then it's, one's a misdemeanor, yeah, then it becomes a misdemeanor on your record. Again, if I'm the spy from North Korea, I've got some other issues than just the misdemeanor. And there you go. All right, like I said, I'd be happy to answer any other questions, and I'll be around if you want to pick my brain out.